right. Take it from the top, Melissa.
Welcome to episode 29 of the Whatnauts Review Show. This is a show where every week we pick a piece of media and we book club discuss it. But it's not really a book. It's a movie, a TV show, a comic, an anime, a manga, a scripted audio podcast. All kinds of media. We watch it, read it, listen to it, absorb it. It becomes part of our bloodstreams and part of our bodies. It fuels us. And we get through the week, and then we come back here and we talk about it with each other. I am your co-host, Melissa Wilkinson, and I am joined, as always, by the intrepid Kyle Springer.
Yeah, I learned what the word intrepid was. We had a small snafu before this where we tried to start it and things weren't working out. And you educated me on the word intrepid. I was like, I have no idea what that is, but I'll take it.
I think you're intrepid. You're a real pioneer. You're always trying new things. You've got like a slightly different technical setup like every time I talk to you.
Yes, so we changed the design of how our Twitch streams look and how the YouTube videos look. Unfortunately, we're not live streaming this right now. That was kind of the hiccup that we had, that something with our stream wasn't working. So we took the stream down, but this will be up on YouTube, as always, a week after this, just this next week. But it's a new design thing. Our cameras are bigger on the screen, and I think that'll help a lot. Instead of us just being like crammed in the corners.
Yes, you get to see more of our lovely faces.
More of our beautiful faces.
Kyle, what have you been up to this week besides fiddling around with these computer settings?
This week has been good. We're gonna be talking about an audio drama this week. And that's kind of what I do all week, is just listen to podcasts and stuff. So on one hand, it was like I didn't do anything different. I just did my normal thing. But more on that in a little bit. You just got back from Chicago because it was your birthday this past, just like 2 days ago from when we're recording this. But I guess like a week ago from when this will be out.
Yep.
A week and a day.
Yeah, I'm not so much of a princess that I went to Chicago on a vacation specifically because it was my birthday. My dad was going to a conference that just happened to be the same weekend, and he's like, well, why don't I just invite you to tag along and you get like a fun birthday weekend up in the city.
Want in Chicago.
Yeah, and also like help keep your mom company while I'm in workshops all day. So I just got to wander around the city with my mom, and we went to the aquarium and we went shopping and gawked at a bunch of skyscrapers in Lake Michigan.
That's awesome. I've been to Chicago once. It was for like a weekend thing. And I went to there was a comic book store up there. I think it's called Graham Crackers.
Yes, that sounds like a thing.
I've been there, and I saw on Instagram you went to Portillo's.
Yes,
if I'm not mistaken. The only reason why I know that name is because Greg Miller, who is a part of Kind of Funny, he's one of the founders. He not only really, really loves that restaurant, I think his picture is up in that restaurant somewhere. And he also has a wiener dog, also named Portillo's. So, or named Portillo. So.
That's such a good wiener dog name. That's perfect.
Yeah. Exactly, because they do hot dogs there.
Yeah,
right?
Hot dogs and
Isn't
Italian beef and
their thing. That's fantastic. Good stuff. So what are we talking about this week?
This week, I didn't offer you the regular 3 pitches. This time I was kind of a princess, and I'm like, well, what if I just told Kyle, like, an assignment?
It's my birthday, so I get what I want.
I just sort of...
That's exactly what she said. She said, fuck you, Kyle. I'm taking control of this shit.
The wheel is mine. I thought that since, because of my vacation, we were recording a day later and we'd have some extra time, and I'd be on the road for like 10 hours. I'm like, this is the perfect opportunity to do this audio drama podcast I've been wanting to talk about. That's just a a tiny bit longer than like your average season block of an audio drama. So, like, this is perfect. I'm seizing this opportunity. I'm claiming this for King Falls AM.
Yeah. So King Falls AM is what we are talking about this week. I'm excited. I've known about this podcast for a while. This was back when my friend Paul and I first started the Whatnauts. The first thing we covered was the Black Tapes podcast. And that kind of introduced me to audio dramas, and so I just started looking for more of them. And this was one of the ones I found, but just never actually got around to listening to. And so I've been following them on Twitter for a long time. I've known kind of what their aesthetic is and what the show kind of is.
Yeah.
Just from being around it, but had never gotten to it. So I'm glad this is the one that you wanted to pick.
Yes.
We're making it law. This is what we're doing.
Yeah, this has been one of my favorites for a couple years. It might be like my favorite audio drama currently still in production. Like, it's on a hiatus, like currently, but like it's not over the way like Wolf 359 is over.
Pretty active on Twitter though. So that's good. That's cool. Yeah. So I've known about them. Let's start doing a synopsis for people who might not know what this show is, and that way we can start talking about our general thoughts and stuff before we do spoilers.
Yes. King Falls is a little town in the Rocky Mountains in Colorado, and it has this AM radio station that runs from 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. on the AM dial. And episode 1 of this podcast, every episode is a radio broadcast. And episode 1 is the first show with the new host, Sammy Stevens. And he gets on there, and the first thing he does is he invites his producer, who's not really supposed to speak. He's like, Ben, get on here and talk about this stuff with me. He's new to town. He's really excited. And he starts learning that this town's got a lot of weird stuff in it. Like, there's a local monk.
Quirky characters.
Yeah.
The whole it reminds me a lot of Welcome to Night Vale.
Yes, it's a very Night Vale, especially in like kind of the way it's formatted, like these twice monthly episodes that are just a radio broadcast, and it's this mix of like spooky stuff and like weird bits, and like it's funny and it's dramatic, and there's ongoing mythology, and there's all these townspeople that pop in and out, and yeah, it's a really fun show. It's a little bit more on the sitcom-y side than a Night Vale is.
Yeah, Night Vale is more cryptic and vague, and a lot more of like, is this existential dread, or is this aliens?
Yes.
Or is there a difference? You know? Whereas this, it's a lot lighthearted, a lot more lighthearted, a lot more bite-sized, I feel like. And there, like you mentioned, there is actually this kind of ongoing lore. They kind of build up this. It's not like a singular story arc, but there is just you get to check in with people. And 2 episodes ago, they were showing this one thing, so you now get an update on that, and so. It's good. It's fun.
Yeah. The main kind of through line for this first year of the podcast is that in episode 1, a local man was abducted by aliens. And a lot of the season is about trying to figure out where he went and how he's going to get back, and just how the town is affected by that and affected by a lot of the other weird
goings on. If it's actually true.
Yeah.
So it's for me kind of being around the show. I think it was exactly what I expected.
That's good. And I think that's good.
I don't mean that in like a, well, it's just it met expectations. that was it. No, like I mentioned before that King Falls AM is on Twitter, and I think you can just look them up as that, and it's the first one that pops up. But I think even just from like the way they interact on Twitter and with their listeners and stuff like that, it really is like what I see on Twitter is what I got in the show, and I think that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Just all the artwork that's involved, the fan artwork, and just I think like the listeners of the actual show take the show a long ways and make it a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, I think this is a really nice segue into doing our little bit of top of the show housekeeping and talk about our social media where you can find us.
Yes. So we've mentioned Twitch before, and we mentioned that we're not live streaming this. I just want to mention that once more. We normally live stream these on Twitch at twitch.tv/the Whatnauts or on our website, thewhatnauts.com/livestreams. But yeah, we had a little bit of technical difficulties this time, so maybe next week we'll be back live. Hopefully everything will be figured out by then. I don't even know what there is to figure out. Maybe I just put the things in the wrong order. I know OBS and Skype and all that stuff is a little finicky, so who knows? We'll figure it out. But continue,
yes.
Melissa.
Yeah, our regular live stream time slot is Sundays at 11 a.m. Central, 12 noon Eastern. I always say it slow because I'm trying to put together the time
figure it out as
in
you
my
go.
head. Like, this is correct, right? I didn't get the coasts mixed up again. Hashtag Midwest problems. So that's our normal time slot where you can find us, and you can very easily just go to thewhatnauts.com/livestreams, correct?
Correct.
Yes. Kyle's got it all set up for you there. You can just go to the webpage, and our Twitch is embedded, and there you can watch us, and you can join the conversation. Have you listened to this? Well, this one isn't live, but maybe the thing...
Let us know in the YouTube comments instead.
Yeah, leave us a YouTube comment, like, tweet out at us. We are the Whatnauts again, right, Kyle?
The Whatnauts on Twitter, and on YouTube you can find us by searching the Whatnauts podcast. I think we're currently at like 25 subscribers. Once we get to 100, then we can actually have a URL on YouTube. Right now it's just a long string of alphanumerics that no one has the time to figure out. So you can just search the Whatnauts podcast and we will pop up right there.
Yes, we'd love to hear from you on our Twitter, on our YouTube, on our Twitch. We have a Patreon where for as little as $1 a month, you can donate to us and you can get stuff early. You don't have to wait.
Give us your hard-earned money.
Yes. You don't have to wait the week for it to get uploaded as a podcast or onto the YouTube feed. It's yours. Not on demand, but close enough.
We did have an episode of the Captain's Log this past week. I recorded it like yesterday. As of recording this, it was me and Jess Beaver. She came back on the show after being gone for a couple weeks because she got a new job, so she was getting used to her new schedule.
Very excited for her.
So it was good to have her there. So be on the lookout for that as well. The Captain's Log.
Yes.
You can find that on iTunes as well. So.
Yep, that's our little talking podcast, I guess, where we just hang out as ourselves. And if you listen to this episode and you want more spooky towns, you and I did an episode recently where I told you all about a mysterious local Missouri neighborhood.
They're mysterious.
Yeah. Mysterious, potentially sultry. Who knows?
Yeah. Who knows?
Okay.
Yeah. So let's start getting into a little bit of spoiler territory. We've kind of said our general thoughts / synopsis of what it is. If you haven't seen, I guess not seen the show, but if you haven't listened to King Falls AM, go check it out. We are going to be covering the first 25 episodes of the show. Most of them are around 15 minutes long on average.
Yeah, 15, 20, getting up to 25.
Yeah. So go check it out, and then come back and listen to the rest of this once you've done that. Melissa, where do you want to start with this show?
Oh boy.
Or do you have questions for me? Because apparently you've been a fan of this show for a couple years now. So you must know more than I do. You must be caught up.
Yes. And in fact, today, after I finished re-listening to the first year, I did a little experiment, and then I re-listened to their most recent episode, which is like the 3rd year anniversary. And just to hear the difference between the two and like how much the show has grown was astounding.
Interesting.
So I'm curious, like you said, you kind of had a vibe for what the show was going to be going into it, just learning from all the social media that you've seen from this podcast. What about it surprised you? Like, were you picturing more of a sitcom and it ended up being more dramatic? Were you picturing more of a drama and it ended up being funnier?
It did end up being funnier than I expected. I wasn't expecting it to be. I knew there were some jokes and stuff in there, but I didn't expect it to be as funny as it was and like as centered on comedy as it was. I guess just like my frame of reference is Night Vale for that like late night radio talk show. Weird things are happening in the town. We're here to give you updates. So I was kind of expecting more mysterious, more cryptic. I think you put it nicely when you said it is more of a sitcom kind of show. But yeah, I mean that I think is what really surprised me.
Yeah.
So
one of the reasons
I don't know, like I one more thing. I guess my other frame of reference to like radio talk shows isn't an audio drama at all, but the Howard Stern show.
Oh, okay.
Which I'm not actually a fan of Howard Stern, or I haven't really listened to much of his stuff. But I know he, like, I guess he's still relevant. I don't know if he is or not.
I don't know.
I just remember when I was younger, like, it being on super late at night, being something I probably shouldn't have been watching at such a young age, where every episode they had some, like, really attractive woman, probably with her shirt off, or using some kind of sex toy or something. So I was like, what in the world? This should not be on TV. But yeah, so like those are my two like frame of references. And I think this falls like a good like in between of that. It's not as extreme as the Howard Stern show, where they are there to stir the pot and say something controversial or do something that no one else would do, right? But it's not this kind of like existential vagueness that Night Vale is, and this falls directly in this center, and I really liked that.
Yes. I think one thing the show might actually be drawing inspiration from, and I don't know this for sure, is that there used to be this radio show hosted by this guy named Art Bell. It might have just been called Coast to Coast with Art Bell, or I'm thinking...
Space Ghost Coast to Coast?
I think it was Coast to Coast. And it was a call-in talk show about weird things. Like, this was the show where if you thought you saw Bigfoot, you would stay up late and then you'd call Art Bell and say, Art Bell, I think I saw a Bigfoot. Here's my story. And then somebody else would call in and say, I live in the same neighborhood and I don't think it was a Bigfoot. I think it might have been a Mothman.
Jim down the street.
Yeah. The show was something like that, and now that you bring up like a real world kind of radio equivalent, I'm like, oh yeah, Art Bell, that might have been one of the things they had in mind when they were making this.
I'm gonna have to go look up that show and see if it's on YouTube or something.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. Yeah. So I guess I want to know. I mean, I want to know spoilers, but I guess we can only do the spoilers of the first 25 episodes.
If you want spoilers, you personally, Kyle, I can tell you after we stop recording, because this show goes places.
The one thing I do want to ask is, you were surprised at how much the show has grown since then. So I guess really quickly, if I can ask, like, up to date now, if you're catching up with this show and you get all caught up, what about it has changed? Is it the production value? Is it like are there like new regular characters?
There are.
Is the acting better? Not that the acting is bad, but just like what about it has improved or grown?
The stakes have gotten a lot higher, and I think the emotional relationships between the characters have gotten a lot more mature. Like, the romance between Ben and Emily is a lot more intense. Like, the friendship between Ben and Sammy is a lot more intense. And the animosity between them and certain, towns members, like Greg Frickert, who's that annoying guy who's, like, trying to court Emily in season 1. He's, like, almost a big bad of, like, year 3.
Awesome. See, that, knowing that as well makes me a lot more interested in the show, because I think a show like this can easily fall into the trap of, well, it's just, there is no real overarching story. That's just gonna be kind of like Scooby-Doo, where each week it's a brand new mystery. And I really like that they're like, it is not one, like, I mean, I guess it is like a central story, but it's not like a story with an end game, right? And I think having those relationships mature and these recurring characters having their roles grow that much more as the story continues really makes me not write this show off as just this, I can put this on in the background and that's that,
Yeah. And, like, the show it becomes more of a drama, but I think it's still close to, like, a 50-50 split, or maybe, like, a 60-40 split, leaning towards the drama where it is right now. Like, you know how Wolf 359 started off very sitcom-y, and then it got, like, so tense?
A lot more dramatic,
like, really tense, just with a couple, like, snarky side comments thrown in close to the end. This is lighter than that, Doug. But still heavier than what you are listening to now in year 1. And like, one of my favorite minor recurring characters is Archie Simmons, the dog breeder. And I think it's because he starts doing this thing. I don't even know if this starts in year 1. It might be later, where he doesn't want to pay for a commercial on the radio station. So
probably later. I don't remember that.
He doesn't want to pay for a commercial, so instead, when he calls in, he, like, holds a tape recorder up to the phone and, like, plays his own homemade, like, jingle through the phone. And so every time Archie calls in, it's preceded by this Archie's Palm Tree Palace, like, jingle for his dog breeding business, selling half Pomeranians, half Chihuahuas. But
so
what? So he's a real comedic character through the first year, and he's still overall a real comedic character, and he's a town gossip. And there's one episode where he has to tell you about a disappearance of somebody in the woods, and it's, instead of being the town gossip, he almost becomes this, like, ghost storyteller, and you get to see that, like, really goofy character be, like, a lot more serious and a lot more, like, haunted, like, and he went up into the mountains, and, like, then nobody saw him again, and, like, just a lot more like that. And he got all of these extra layers of depth to them while he's still basically in the role of weird town gossip. Like, the main characters of the show grow so much, but the little side characters also, like, when the time is right, they get these little things added on.
small story
they get
arc.
to like kind of grow, or even if they don't have like a full plot, like you get to see them show more emotions than they have before.
I'm kind of waiting for different story. Like there's multiple different plot threads, some that are mentioned and some that aren't. Like I think my favorite plot thread is something that they didn't even really mention. You just kind of notice it happening. And that's the Italian guy who's like slowly taking over the other businesses, and they're like, "Wait, he runs the bookshop now?"
Yes, yeah.
And then you hear the new bookshop advertisement, and it's him, and yeah, like you have this like Italian mafia story going on in the background. But they only mention it in like a few side comments. I'm just like, wait, what happened to the other guy? Well, you know, and so like I'm waiting for like that to like get its shine.
Yeah,
and,
there's more of that.
When is stuff like that? So I'm excited to see where it goes after these 25 episodes.
I think that's.
Let me ask you this though. Having gone back, what do you wish that they did differently? I know we can kind of only critique, review, discuss what we got, or I guess what we listened to in my case, because what's done is done. But if you had to like name one or two things you wished they did differently, what do you think those would be?
I was actually surprised at how much stuff they did set up early on that was paying off later. Like stuff that like I knew had kind of been starting to show up before it was really involved, but with this I was like, oh boy, that's really early for that thing to be there. So this was actually like a really pleasantly surprising listen through again. But I would say one thing, sometimes they kind of like their jokes are weirdly crude occasionally, in that this is one of the plot lines of the show is that like the local mayor is kind of a crook, and like there's this creepy guy who's like trying to date the local librarian who one of the co-hosts has a huge crush on, and so there's bad people in this town that they are trying to work against. But then also there's like one bit where they have a radio commercial from like Creepy Carl's candy van. And it's like, why are you doing both of these? Like, you can't be like, this guy is a serious creep about like Greg Frickert, but like Creepy Carl just gets to run around town. Like, they try and have it both ways, and it's weird, and the show gets better.
I kind of like that, actually.
You like that it was like a combination of actual problems they are trying to solve and like, oh, that guy's weird. Well, moving on.
Yeah, just like, I think I mentioned I didn't expect it to be as like centered on comedy as it is, and I think there's a lot of media out there that will shy away from making jokes about certain things because it is sensitive topics. And yeah, like there's certainly things you don't want to say or things you don't want to normalize. But I think there are ways to broach those topics with comedy. And I think that's often why people go see comedians. Because, you know, like if I go to a comedy show and there's jokes that are probably offensive, I don't think I should be offended when that happens, because like that's kind of what, like that's what a comedian does.
Yeah.
To an extent. Not that this show had anything that I thought that was particularly like, ooh, that could have been really bad. But there's like Gwendolyn the racist witch.
Yes.
There's a bunch of like gay jokes and stuff like that, and like I did not feel like they ever came off as predatory.
No.
they never came off as like, oh, we actually believe the jokes that we're making
No,
here.
of course not.
These gosh darn gay people are ruining America.
Yeah.
You know, like they never actually presented their material in ways that I felt like it was offensive or off-putting, and I really liked that, but I didn't expect that as well. So I was like, oh, they're going there. I was like, okay.
Yeah, I think...
Strap in, let's go.
I think everything is generally done in pretty good taste, and there's a very positive attitude behind a lot of things. It's just that because this is a real serialized story with, like, real growth, and, like, people that are minorly shady in the beginning become, like, legitimate threats as the show goes on, it's weird that you have, like, the local newscaster who, like, ignores his female partner is, like, a terrible guy, and, like, we are taking him down, but then, like, Chet Sebastian is still Chet Sebastian. Like,
yeah.
But he grows in some ways. Chet Sebastian's always been a fascinating character to me. He's the guy who runs, like, Chet Sebastian's Jazz Corner, and it's on...
He's the radio show right before them.
Yeah. And he's, like, super sleazy, but, like, they make a lot of jokes about him being sleazy that seem to mostly come from Sammy and Ben themselves. It's not like they ever have some woman calling in saying, I can't believe you have Chet Sebastian as part of your show every once in a while. Like, he's so terrible to me. Like, they're just making these jokes about him without, like, a lot of anybody else's point of view on it. And also, like, as sleazy as that guy might be, as the show goes on, he becomes, like, so caring and brotherly towards Sammy and Ben to where that's one of my favorite things the show ever pulls out. Like, whenever Chet Sebastian is like, okay, like, you guys need help, I'm here to help you, like, I'm your backup. Yeah. Whenever they play that card, I love it. It's just strange that they've got all of this progress in other areas. I mean, like, the character's trying to make progress, like, the mayor is a misogynist, we have to take down the mayor. Chet's still here being Chet. Like, some things get dramatically progressed, and some things stay the same joke that they were at the beginning of the show.
Okay. So I think what I'm trying to say, which I did not so eloquently say when I was first saying it, I can word well.
Absolutely.
It is, yeah, like, I think it's better to show both sides of stuff and then be like, hey, look, this person is actually wrong, you know? Just because you think racism is bad or sexism, stuff like that, doesn't necessarily mean it should be erased completely from all stories and stuff like that. We still might need some of that to teach a certain lesson of, like, hey, this stuff actually is bad. Let's not forget that this is bad, you know, and stuff like that. Let's deal with people like that. Like, here's how you deal with stuff like that. So I was happy that they left some of that stuff in.
And even if sometimes that juxtaposition of, like, almost trying to have, like, dramatic, this person needs their problem solved, while also comedic, there's that guy causing trouble again in the same episodes, even if that's just a little odd sometimes, I do like that this show has this combination of people in the town where it's like, this person is doing something bad and we need to stop them, and that person did some bad things, but they are learning and they are getting better, and we are going to become, you know, compatriots with them. And also, like, this person frustrates me, but they're my neighbor, what am I gonna do? Like, Cynthia, that woman, like, who always calls in, like, Ben, I can't believe you just said that. Like, that lady, she's one of the few characters that I think is the same, beginning to end. Cynthia is always exactly what you have heard Cynthia doing.
That's funny. So I kind of asked you that, like, what's the thing that you might change, because I think this was, since this was one of the first audio dramas I kind of found out about when I was first looking for them. I think it sticks in my head, and this isn't necessarily a bad thing, but I think a lot of people are beginning to write off audio dramas that hold like specific formats.
Okay, yeah.
Right? Like, oh, it's another one that it's just radio broadcasts. Oh, here's another one where it's a fake investigative journalism thing, you know? And so I know this show has been running for a couple years now, but I'm wondering what your thoughts are on that. Like, how do you think the format of the show serves the show well, or could it be served better if they started to break from that?
Two things. I think this format does work for this story. Like, we were talking earlier about Ernie Salcedo kind of creeping up as a plot point. Nobody's really talking about him. He's just in commercials. And what this show can do with, like, commercials and sponsor breaks and ads and things like that, that's tremendous world building. Yeah. And, like, you get so much stuff, like, naturally worked in, both world building stuff and just, like, weird jokes, like the snakeskin boot warehouse or something like that.
We fill your boots with savings.
Yes! Like, you get all of that in such a natural way where it's not stopping the story because this is a radio show. Yeah, it is going to stop and have a commercial. So you're never being force-fed exposition and you're never being force-fed jokes because there's a natural outlet for that place to be. And also, the fact that they are radio professionals, I think, works into the plot a lot of the time. Like, it's not just like two guys talking for a while and then commercials happen.
If they're not in the studio, they're at some local event and they're the man on the scene.
Yeah, and like, not to keep referencing Night Vale, I only do it because it's another like huge audio drama and the format's and the format's kind of similar. Like, these Sammy and Ben are broadcasters. They are radio people to like such a stronger degree than like Cecil Palmer is. And so I think they put that radio format to work here. Maybe better than like any other audio drama has done. And the second thing I wanted to say is that to kind of tease something that happens, you know, this happened in like February, I think. This is a fairly recent development in the show. There's an episode where Sammy has a breakdown and gets so upset that he like punches out the equipment. And so only the first like 10 minutes of the episode are a radio broadcast. And the rest of it is just Sammy and Ben alone in the studio, like, oh, the equipment's broken, but Sammy, you're going through something right now. Forget the equipment, forget the show. I'm your best friend. I'm just going to talk with you. And it's just them talking as people. And I think that's the first time it like breaks any form of like a radio broadcast, be it on, you know, in the studio or out on location or something. That's the first time it breaks that format. And it's this huge, dramatic, like there's almost no jokes in it. Like, it's just a big, dramatic character episode. And it was incredible.
Because I'm torn, because part of me really wants more stuff like that in this show, because I think they have some really fascinating characters that I really want to know more about. You're a radio broadcaster, you're new here, you've been here a year now. What else have you done? Like, what's your favorite diner? You know, what else is going on at the house of Ben? You know, has he had more date nights with the librarian? Has he started to buy a new collection of books to impress her when she finally goes to his house?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Like, I want to know more about the characters in a way of like, what is the drama behind actually making the show? What guests has Ben tried to book that didn't work out, and what's the stress like with that? You know, stuff that wouldn't necessarily be recorded or on the air. There's like, I want more of that, but at the same time, I think they do the broadcast format so well that I'm like, keep pushing it. I like, you guys are doing this really well, but you guys can do more somehow, some way. Like how else can you start pushing this? Because we mentioned, I forget his name. You mentioned him, the Italian dude.
Oh, Ernie Salcedo. I've listened to this
Yes.
show so many times. Like every minor character's name
I'm
is like
always
memorized.
terrible with names. I'm awful with names. But yeah, I mean, just like that whole thing where the commercials on this show also have their own stories to them, like that's fantastic. How does the rise of podcasts and YouTube affect this show? Maybe there's something that comes up by the way you're acting.
Yes, you are actually like kind of predicting a lot of things they do. There is this bit later on, it might be in year 2, where
don't spoil it.
Well, I'll just say like Ben books a podcaster he really looks up to, and Sammy kind of like as a joking thing is like, podcast, what's that? But also it's this real character thing of Sammy has a grudge against this woman, and it takes a long time for you to figure out why the two of them don't like each other at all.
Okay, yeah, because like, yeah, I mean, I just like, I feel like they can incorporate other ways into the show that wouldn't break the radio thing. I'm not sure exactly what. I'm sure they could come up with something good, but yeah, I like that. That's the thing that makes me like, don't show me what it's like off mic. Stick to this one thing and just fold it and manipulate it and do all of that stuff and come up with something we haven't seen yet. So I don't know.
What?
It's a good show though.
Yeah. What was your favorite mystery of the first year?
Favorite mystery?
Or it's just like weird supernatural question. It doesn't have to be a for real mystery. It could be like lake monster ?
Yeah, the lake monster is interesting. I'm still wanting to know what the lights are, because obviously the big thing that happens at the end of I guess if you want to consider that like the end of season 1, the end of that first year, it's that Emily gets taken at the end by seemingly the same aliens that took what's his name
Jensen.
At the start. Tim, yeah. Again, I'm awful with names. I'm so bad. I'm just like, that dude. What's her butt? What's his face? Italian guy. Cheerleader, so and so. What's her face?
The ugly one.
Yes, thank you for knowing Teen Girl Squad.
Of course, classic.
But yeah, like I think that one was nice. I kind of want to know more about the aliens. What's going on with that? Because that's one of the things I kind of remember from Twitter. It must have been last year or something. I kind of remember seeing something about an episode, and I could be completely wrong and talking out of my ass here, about like another alien sighting, and they have to like interrupt the show to like go look out the windows and see what it is, or something like that. So I knew there was some kind of looming alien threat there, and we still don't like. I feel like that's the one we don't know anything about yet.
Yeah, you learn there's more activity, and it's never like you get to see inside the spaceship, or hi, I'm an alien, I would like to do an interview, please. Like, you never learn that much, but there is more drama around that as the show goes on.
Okay. Do you think it would benefit the show if we do learn more, or should we not? Because that's so to take the Walking Dead comics, for example, Robert Kirkman, the creator of those comics, has said he's never gonna say how the apocalypse actually happened, or like what this zombie thing is. We don't know if it's a virus or if it's like they all died and came back to like it started with one person and they came back to life, or if it's some biblical thing or what, because he said it's that fear of the unknown. Like, we don't know what is happening here. And I guess even to bring it to like Batman, right? We don't know the exact origins of the Joker. There's multiple origins. Maybe this one is right. Maybe that one's wrong. Maybe there's a little bit of all of them in there. We don't know. And I think that's what makes it really scary. But at the same time, I know a lot of people who are like, they've gone 150, almost 200 issues of that comic, and we still don't know anything. Bullshit. Like, why read that if it's just going to be these stupid stories about people and their relationships, and stuff. It's like, that's not, I'm here to find out what happened, So, like, do you think this show would benefit from finding out more about the aliens?
It's got such personal importance to some of the characters. Like, I mean, I guess this isn't that much of a spoiler. Of course, Emily comes back. She's not gone forever. She's a major character on the show.
I figured, yeah.
Yeah, so she wants to know, why was I taken? Why me? And
I think we all want to know that.
Yeah, and so it's a very personal goal of some of these characters to find out more, and like, not for plot reasons, not for mythology reasons, but for those characters. I want
just
them
like the
to
sake
know
of their
more.
sanity.
Yeah.
But that makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah. I'm again, that's another thing I'm kind of torn on, because like, I want to know, what are these aliens? What are these weird mystical lights? I want to know. This is spooky, unsolved mysteries, Like, I used to stay up late watching those shows where I was like, I saw a UFO back in 52.
Yes.
The government doesn't want me to say this, but I was also abducted, and and like, I was sitting there like, and then what? What happened? So I feel like I'm a sucker for that stuff of just like, how ridiculous can they get with this alien story?
Yes. And who knows, like, maybe towards the end of this series run, however long into the future that might be, they did say at the end of their most recent episode, which was like the 3rd year mark, like, they did 3 years and they're like, okay, now we're taking a hiatus for a little bit. They're like, you've just heard the end of what we'll call phase 1. So I don't think this is wrapping up anytime soon. But whoever knows, years from now, it would be interesting if, like, the alien stuff, like, drama-wise was settled, and then it was like, alright, and then we've got, KLX9 here in the studio with us, to do, like, as a final, like, cap to the thing, just like, and here's the wacky side of it. Because I think the show does moderate its tone very well. Like, I don't think it's ever become like, oh, I don't think that's the right place for a joke, or I don't think that's the right place for a dramatic moment.
Right.
Like, I think it knows when to hit each beat that it wants to hit.
Each note, yeah, I would agree with that. Did you have a favorite character?
I always see, this is something I was picking up on, I think, the first time I listened through the series, and I'm curious if you picked up on it too. Did you spend time thinking about how little we know about Sammy?
Kinda, yeah.
Okay, because that was something that was on my mind as I was originally listening through the show the first time. Like, oh, we find out things about Ben. Like, he mentions his mom, and like, these are his goals.
We don't really
he
know
wants
anything about Sammy, maybe he's an alien and his radio show is the signal beacon to the other aliens. I mean, the aliens didn't show up until Sammy started his radio show. I don't know.
Eventually you do learn Sammy, it's not like some writerly oversight, like, oh, whoops, we forgot to make up a backstory for him. It's Sammy has been seriously, purposefully, like, hiding things about his past. And later on, you find out what they are and why he kept them so private and why he came to King Falls specifically when he did.
Okay.
And
so Sammy is your favorite.
I found him the most intriguing the first time I listened through this series because I kept expecting to learn more about him and I didn't. And I'm like, why doesn't he say anything about his past? Like, can I have some nugget of something? And it took so long to figure out, oh, I think I know why he's so tight-lipped about anything else he's done, like, before he set foot in this city.
That makes sense.
So, he's just been a character that's always drawn a lot of my attention. But I don't know, I think it's a real two-handed show, but I think just because Sammy does have this kind of secrecy to him, the more emotional heart of the show is Ben.
Yeah, I think I like Ben so far as my favorite, just because he kind of is the opposite. Like, he's the anchor of, like, I've been here in King Falls for a while. When certain people call and he goes, oh, we should hang up. Like, like, hang up the phone right now. You're breaking up. Can't hear you. Like, he's doing stuff like that, and it was in the last, like, 5 or 6 episodes when Gwendolyn starts to call in. And we don't even hear her voice speak yet, but we hear the music that's in the background.
The twinkly fairy music.
Call, and he just goes, oh no. Like, he knows exactly who it is without them speaking. And my first thought, like, once that started happening was like, how does he know her? Like, what? Because when you don't know that she is a quote unquote witch, like, my first couple thoughts was, like, how does he know her? What is she? What is her job? What is her profession? Like, is this, like, some kind of weird ex-girlfriend? Is this, like, the stripper that he used to go see all the time at the local strip club? And who knows, like, something bad happened there and he doesn't want to talk with her? What is going on here that just immediately, without her even talking, he knows, and he's just like, oh no, like, just stone cold, like, we need to hang up now. And then, like, as they start talking, he's like, remember when I told you to hang up?
I think Gwendolyn is a really neat meeting between the social strife and the supernatural strife that this show is dealing with. Like Greg Frickert is a jerk, but it's not like Greg Frickert has magic powers. And, you know, the aliens are spooky, but it's not like the aliens are also prejudiced. Like, I think the one place those things cross over is Gwendolyn the racist witch. She's such a bizarre, over-the-top character, and she's acted so well. Like, just, like, that actress's voice and her performance and the little, like, twinkly fairy music that comes up whenever she's around. Like, it's weird to say I enjoy her because she is such a, like, her principles are so despicable, but just, like, she's so weird. I kind of admire that they went for a character as bizarre as Gwendolyn.
Yeah, it's one of those odd things of, you're right, I shouldn't like her because she's racist, but I kind of like her because she's so weird and bizarre. Like, why did, like, it's just so over the top that, like, you can't help but look away.
And there's, this isn't, I wouldn't call this a spoiler, more of, like, a fun tease. There's a Christmas episode where she she actually puts her witch magic to use. She casts a spell and makes it a musical episode. And she's just there as this, like, tiny bookend at the beginning and the end. Like, she's not doing any crazy mean stuff to anybody.
That's fantastic.
She just, like, waves her wand and everybody starts singing, and it's such an incredibly done musical episode, Kyle.
That's awesome. That's becoming a trope of audio dramas now. Like in anime, you have the hot springs episode.
Yeah.
You know, there has to be a musical episode of audio dramas, and some TV shows now too.
Mm-hmm.
They did one on The Flash and Supergirl.
Oh.
Because both of those actors were on Glee before that, so everyone was like, they can sing, right? What if they go to a world where everything is done in musicals?
There is that Batman villain, the Music Meister.
Yeah, actually, I think that was the villain that kind of started all.
Of course, like, who else is gonna do it? Captain Cold doesn't sing.
Yeah, no. But yeah, like there's I think just a great cast of characters that are all acted really well.
Yeah.
I kind of hesitated to say that, not because they're acted bad, but because I think it's purposefully done over the top, right?
Yeah, there are...
Which, for audio dramas, most of the time you kind of have to do that.
Yeah.
There's certain stories that's not really appropriate, but I think, like, I guess for what more people might know is, like, the difference between a movie, like what you go see in, like, a movie theater, versus, like, a play that you go see on stage, right? Those stage actors have to speak louder, be a little bit more bombastic, and move more dramatically, and be more dynamic, and do what I'm doing with my voice, you know? And that's, you know, that's because if it's not a movie, you can't necessarily get those up-close moments with the characters. You can't catch the under-the-breath comments and stuff like that. So they kind of have to find their workarounds. And this being only an auditory medium, right? It's not visual. It's kind of the same thing. We can't see their reactions. We can't like they say 80% of communication is done with the eyes. And I mean, it's kind of the same thing. So they have to play it up for you to really understand the emotion or the angst or the drama or the comedy behind that stuff. And so it's one of those things, if you're not really used to audio dramas, I think it's like, oh, this is kind of cheesy and over the top. It's obviously fake and stuff like that, you know. But then I think once you kind of understand that, it's like, oh, yeah, these guys are fantastic. They're having a lot of fun. This is so good.
And, like,
so
as the show gets more dramatic as it goes on, like, the kind of subtlety in the dramatic acting increases a lot. I think the actors who play Ben and Emily have gotten some sort of, like, podcasting award for, like, audio drama acting, and I think they definitely deserve it. Those characters go through a lot.
I think what else is neat that I think they did with the characters, and I would do this too if I was making my own story or stuff like that, I would pick characters from other stories that I like and just kind of, like, mix and match them into my own story. And I think his name is Gunderson.
Oh.
What's his name? Troy
Gunderson? Okay. Gunderson is the sheriff who we don't meet in year one. But yeah, their local deputy Troy Krieghauser, who's like, boy, it's hot.
Is that the guy? There is one who's a cop. I believe he's a cop.
Yeah, he's the local, police deputy who's just sort of like that kind of goofy, charming, like Mayberry sort of man.
He reminds me of the I don't know ranks, not the assistant cop. That'd be weird if we had
Assistant
assistant cops. I am an assistant cop. I'm not listening to you. You're only an assistant. He reminds me of, and I again, I don't know the name because I'm terrible with names, the assistant cop from Twin Peaks.
Okay. Yeah. Was that
yeah,
Harry
you know exactly,
Truman?
Wait, is Harry the main cop? It's not the main cop, but it's
be.
the one. It's the one who doesn't like seeing blood, and the receptionist and him kind of have a thing.
Yeah, I haven't watched Twin Peaks in like a decade, so
I spot on that same type of
I'm sure that's
character.
it.
And I was just like, bravo, this is amazing. I love that you're like, you have that character, you have the Italian like mobster gangster dude who's doing his Godfather thing, you know. Just it's fantastic to see all these different characters.
Yeah. And like there's
and I'm sure other people could be like, oh, the news, the weatherman from the radio station that they don't like, or the TV channel that they don't like. That guy reminds me of this guy from that movie and stuff like that. It's just like, to me, that helps audio dramas come to life, because I then have a visual reference for them, right? Of like, oh, it's like this character from this one movie or this one TV show and stuff like that. So.
When I first started listening to this show, I think was when season 2 of Daredevil had just hit Netflix, and so I had been rewatching.
Season 3 is about to hit.
Yeah.
I think when this comes out, it should be out the same weekend.
Oh boy.
What do you know?
But I'd been rewatching season 1, and then I watched all of season 2, and then I was listening to this, and because it was just so close together, in my mind, Ben has always looked like Foggy Nelson. And, Sammy has also always looked kind of like Matt Murdock.
I don't know if that's what I envisioned.
I don't think I would have come up with that if those things hadn't happened to me the same week.
I can see the connection between Ben and Foggy of just, Foggy is the emotional character. He's the anchor. Why are you doing it? Why are you hurting everyone? What is going on?
Yeah.
We can't be friends anymore, you know? But I love Foggy in those shows. So I can see that. I don't know if that's what I saw. What did I see them as visually? That's an interesting question. I don't know. That I don't know if I have a set one for those characters.
And nobody's really got any physical descriptors yet, and you don't really get any as the show goes on. I think you learn about Ben that he's Jewish and he's very short, and that Sammy has a man bun. And that's what you know about them, and that's it.
Interesting. So now I'm thinking of a skinnier version of Chris Hemsworth.
Sammy could be a Hemsworth, yeah.
Just an unknown Hemsworth brother with a man
Another
bun.
one walked out of the Outback.
Yeah. Who knows?
Oh, Kyle, this is not really related to the topic at hand, but can I tell you one of the proudest moments of my entire life?
Absolutely not.
Oh,
yes. What has made Melissa the proudest in her short time on the planet Earth?
I work in academic publishing, and at my office, now I work in journals, but I used to work in textbook composition, and I was the youngest person in the department by decades. The youngest person there after me was probably 45. And we're working on this science textbook, this high school science textbook. And in this chapter about genetics, it's talking about familial resemblance. And as an example, it's got Chris and Liam Hemsworth. Let's look at these two famous brothers. But the
specimens. If you're going to have to look at someone for this whole chapter, look at these two.
Mm-hmm. But the caption had their names flipped around. Like, Chris was labeled as Liam, and Liam was labeled as Chris. And I'm like, this is why I'm here. This is why I'm, like, the one young 20-something in the department who's seen all the Marvel movies and nobody else has. If I wasn't here, this textbook would go to print with their names flipped around.
But yeah, I would be the one, like, let's leave it in and then leave like some like footnote or something in it, and like have some kind of contest, like first 50 people to write in with the, you know, with the mistake in this chapter get free tickets to Thor 5, you know.
Textbook companies don't have that kind of spare money, Kyle.
Whatever. Hire me. I know how to make you more money.
I bet you could. I bet you could put together like, when podcasting is like a serious like college class, not like from a technical standpoint, like you're an audio engineer, but just like podcast studies, like Kyle, you could just make that textbook.
There you go. It wouldn't be a textbook, though. That's the thing. It would be a podcast. No, like, so, again, now we're way off topic here, but I've always wanted someone to make an audio drama about making audio dramas.
Yes.
That would be fantastic. I did an old episode of what was the Whatnauts podcast, which is unfortunately no longer available on iTunes, but hopefully one day in the near future will be available on our website, thewhatnauts.com.
Yeah.
We did an episode on Shirobako, which is an anime about making anime, and it was amazing. It was so good. It was so insightful, because that's something that I don't know. Like, what is the process involved? Like, what's it like to be an animator? Do you have to work with multiple studios? Yeah. Who's the liaison between these two? And it was a fantastic show. It was hilarious. It was heartfelt. I cried at the end. It was great, because it's about these 5 girls who are in their college, and they start like an anime club about like, we want to make anime for our jobs, and so they make one as their like final project, and then they all go off and they get real jobs, and they all, like, one day their goal is to all work together on an anime, and they finally do it. It's amazing. They do. But yeah, like I would want to see an audio drama about making an audio drama.
Yeah.
What's it like how do you get sponsors? How do you hire actors? Like, what have you ever stayed up so late that you're yelling at people? Like, there's so much drama behind the scenes I don't think we see, and I know you guys have a secret Slack channel. I've mentioned this before on the podcast. I know it exists. I'm not invited to sit at the cool kids table because no one has hired me as a voice actor yet.
You could do it.
Yeah, do it. No. Anyways, back to King Falls.
Yes.
AM.
Yes.
What if people enjoyed this? What else would you recommend? I think an obvious one is Night Vale.
Yeah.
But what else is out there that you might give to them to be like, hey, you might like this?
In terms of other audio dramas, there's Night Vale. Wolf 359, I think, has got that same sort of, starts out kind of wacky with like more dramatic plot overtones, and that ends up getting like 80 drama, 20 comedy at the very end. But yeah, that's another one of like the strongest podcasts I've heard, I think, Wolf 359. For just other stories that kind of have the same vibe, I already recommended this like a month ago, but still, like, go watch Gravity Falls. It's just interesting. It's just about a spooky little forested town and some people trying to survive, and like solve mysteries and live their normal lives and fall in love and be families.
Interesting. We did an episode of the review show a while back on another audio drama that you recommended called The Fearsome Morning.
Yes.
And I would actually recommend that.
Good.
That was it. It seemed kind of like a smaller production.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if they're still making that show or not.
No.
I don't think they are, but I think we listened to the first 8 episodes.
Yeah,
everything. Is that all that's out?
Yeah, everything they had, which was like 8 or 10 episodes.
And it's a similar thing in that they're like the main character, I guess, just became an assistant to this guy who makes a radio show.
Mm-hmm. TV
and
show.
Yes, TV show.
Like some big like morning talk
show
deal. Yeah.
Thing. Yeah. And he kind of sends these audio messages back home, kind of updating his parents on everything that's happening and stuff like that. And so that's how the show is framed, but it's the same type of like over the top bombastic, not in the like surreal almost there's aliens or stuff like, but it's just like, this is completely ridiculous. I didn't know that, this guy considers himself the 15th sexiest man in the world, It's that same type of comedy, which I happen to really enjoy.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
so I would recommend that.
Yeah, and another thing, well. Like this doesn't have anything to do with the supernatural, but if you like stories that have a lot of like weird small town quirks and just like wacky characters that wander in and out, and you've got plenty of laughs, but also like you have an emotional heart to something, and it can get like very high stakes and very emotionally intense. Kyle, have you ever seen The Gilmore Girls?
I have not.
It's a show I have been slowly working my way through. I love it. I'm not like begrudgingly working my way through it. It's just like,
I know a lot of people really love that show.
I have a lot of other things that keep me busy. Otherwise I would have had this devoured by now. It's so charming. It's wall-to-wall charm. So if you've tried this and you're like, I don't like aliens, but I want like the romance and the friendship and just like the wacky townspeople.
Yeah.
That's what a Gilmore Girls is for.
Okay. Sounds good. Sounds good to me. Hey, just a quick update. You have a very poor internet connection, or one of us does. I can hear you. Your camera has
God, that frozen face looks so ugly.
Oh,
there I am. Am I back? Am I pretty?
Yes, you sound a lot better. Definitely. So I guess getting back to the end of this show. I think those are all great recommendations that people should go check out. Obviously, there's a lot more of King Falls AM for people to go check out as well. I think they're on like episode 70, 80 something.
Yeah,
I don't know.
It's 75 plus like a couple assorted little like bonus episodes.
Okay, sounds good. So we did like the first third of phase 1, apparently. Go check out the show, especially if you made it this far in and haven't seen it yet. Shame on you, but also not, because thanks for hanging out with us. Anyways, I guess it is my turn to pitch some stuff.
Yes,
for this week.
I'm excited. What have you got?
So let me pull up my notes here. I got 3 things. I have a manga and 2 animes. Both are very, very short.
Ooh.
So the first one, the manga, is called Dororo. Dororo.
Okay, I recognize that name.
Not to be confused with Durururura. which is Durar. This is Dororo.
Yes.
I believe is how it's pronounced. It's a manga by Osamu Tezuka.
Oh, yes.
Who is
I know him.
Often referred to as the grandfather of manga. Very, very influential creator, and the creator of Astro Boy. Most people might recognize him if they at least saw him, if they don't recognize him by name. Anyways, this is about it follows two young boys. One of the boys is the son of a Japanese ruler who basically gave his kid up to a bunch of demons.
Oof.
And was like, look, I will give you all the body parts of my son if you let me rule Japan. So that's what happens. He tosses the kid in the river because he feels like he doesn't really need the kid. And then someone else finds him and raises him and gives him cybernetic limbs or prosthetics.
The camera froze again.
It did. So he ends the boy ends up living, and he has all these prosthetic limbs, and then he meets this young thief named Dororo. And together they go traveling Japan, trying to hunt down these demons that all his body parts were sold to. So as he kills all these demons, he gets his body parts back. And it's pretty short. I think it's only 19 or so chapters. It's a good size for 19 chapters, but it's a good chunk. But that is the entire story as well. And pitch number 2 is an anime that's 13 episodes long called The Devil is a Part-Timer.
Oh, I've heard of this.
I've seen it on Netflix or Hulu or something, and I've always skipped over it because it's one of those ones that this just looks so ridiculously stupid. However, I finally read what the plot was, or what the synopsis is, and it's basically, what if Satan is transformed into a human and has to find a job to survive, so he works at McDonald's making minimum wage?
Yes.
That's it. The Devil is a Part-Timer. Supposedly it's kind of like a comedy slice of life thing, and I guess dives into the woes of working minimum wage. Who knows? So yeah, that is an interesting one. I was like, I'm gonna pick something I normally
wouldn't. Good.
For these ones. I would read Osamu Tezuka. I love his stuff. But the two anime that I have here are stuff that I normally wouldn't watch. So pitch number 3 is called Monthly Girls' Nozaki-kun.
Did you say
I think there's
girls'
a Japanese name there that I... Monthly Girls' Nozaki-kun, plural possessive of girls.
Okay. Girls'.
So GIRLS
apostrophe.
That one is 12 episodes, and this is a romantic comedy about a high school girl who has a crush on a guy, and she finally gets the nerve to tell him. But he completely misreads the situation, and he thinks that she is a fan of the comics that he makes, the manga. So he thinks that she's asking for his autograph. So he gives her an autograph, and she ends up somehow helping him to make more manga and all of this stuff. And it's this big misunderstanding of oh god, how do I tell him this is not what I want? Oh my god. So yeah, Monthly Girls' Nozaki-kun. one. So I guess just go back through all of my stuff for everyone listening there. Pitch number 1 is Dororo by Osamu Tezuka. Pitch number 2 is The Devil is a Part-Timer, which is a 13-episode anime. I'm not sure who directed, wrote, produced all that stuff. We'll let you know next week. And same thing for pitch number 3, Monthly Girls is Nozaki-kun, 12 episodes. What's on your mind? What are you thinking? Which one makes the cut? Which ones do not?
You know I love romance, and you know I love weird supernatural things breaking into mundane everyday life. But I've never read Osamu Tezuka before, and I think it's about time I did that. So I want to pick Dororo.
Yes, Dororo. I think it should be interesting because there's like samurai and demons and a boy with a cybernetic, or I guess not cybernetic. Who knows? But it should be interesting. And Osamu Tezuka always had a very Disney-like style, like very, very early Disney style. And his comics are usually often very self-aware too, or at least the ones that I've read. So they're pretty funny at times too. So this should be good. I'm excited to check it out. I believe that is it. We mentioned our Patreon, patreon.com/the Whatnauts. A single $1. You can give us all your money. You can lose your house. You don't have to pay your rent. You can pay us instead. Because that is, you don't have a house. You can help our show grow and continue to make bigger and better content. That way you can get our episodes early. Melissa, where can they find you on the internet?
I am on Twitter and Instagram at WilkyWit, WilkyWit. And I don't pitch this every week, just whenever I feel like it's relevant. I have a tabletop RPG podcast. It's called, I don't have it. My friend has it, and I'm just on it. It's called The Lost Library, and the primary campaign, the first one we started with, is a Monster of the Week campaign. That's the name of the game. Not like metaphorically, like that colloquial saying, but just that is what the game is called. And the campaign is called Grayscale, and it is also about spooky happenings in a tiny town. So if you want more of that, and you also want to hear my voice some more, you can go listen to me play that. And I fight werewolves, and I save gargoyles, all kinds of things.
There you go. Good stuff. I've actually changed my internet handles. Crazy in 2018. There was when we all first signed up for AOL Instant Messenger and stuff, we used all these pseudonyms because we didn't know who was out there trying to steal our identity. And then with like the rise of YouTube and like the influencer and stuff like that, they're like, no, use your actual name so you can build your personal brand and stuff like that. Well, by the time I figured that out, someone already had Kyle Springer, but they did not have Yo Kyle Springer. So if you want to yell at me on the internet, you can yell at me at Yo Kyle Springer on Twitter and Instagram. I just made a personal Instagram for myself, which is very lame and boring right now, but it will get
I like it. I'm a fan.
Well, thank you. I have 5 pictures as of right now. That's great. And then if you guys want more updates about what we are up to here on the Whatnauts for the review show or any of our other shows, you can follow us on Twitter at the Whatnauts. And of course, you can go to our website, thewhatnauts.com. We mentioned most of all of this stuff. We're just repeating ourselves at this point. Wrap it up. Let's finish it. Take it away, Melissa.
All right. Thanks to everybody for joining us. The live stream was not working this week, but you can catch us again next week. We will be talking about Dororo, and we hope you can listen in, join the conversation, or just come in and say hi to us.
Yes.
All right.
Let us know your thoughts. We would love to hear what you guys thought.
This has been The Review Show, and I've been Melissa Wilkinson.
And I'm Kyle Springer.
All right, have a great night, everyone. Stay safe from aliens.
Bye.